Hi, it's Kim Nelson with Jewelry Design Department at FIT. Continuing my tutorial on doing an advanced maquette for this 3-stone ring project. Not loving how the prongs turned out in the maquette. It tells me that I have questions here, but I'm going to move on. As is my usual habit, I will select these curves and group them together, and I will put them in storage. Next thing up is to figure out this shape, this front piece. Quickest way to get started with that is simply draw it. Helps to know that I usually offset 2 millimeters and then move it up 0.35. So I know I can replicate the beginnings of this really easily. Starts to vary from that about right here. So curve extend by arc to point. It's a nice way to sketch. Now the illusion is that this is all one plane. In reality, it may not be able to be that. Go ahead and split this. I should be able to split it with this curve because it's still flat. I may as well just trim it. Yeah. Take this, rebuild it. I'd give it like 25 points. Turn on my grid, the graph, turn on my points, and try and do a little bit tidier job of following my design. Fine. Okay, yeah, it's not a closed curve because there's an overlap. Fill it that away. Except for I want that to be a 0 value, so I get a nice clean corner. Okay. Same thing in here. I'm going to actually copy out my ring board because I might want to use that later. But it diverges from that about right here. Trim that in half. Rebuild that. I can have less over here, like 15. That looks good to me. Mirror it over. And then I need to have it end in something, so I'll do a blend. Because I'm always thinking in terms of like cakes or cookies when I'm doing a maquette. So there's that. Now before I forget, paste back in my original. So these two will allow me to draw this element. Main challenge of drawing that element is knowing what surface it goes on. going to bring out my I could have sworn that I kept a copy of that. Yeah, there it is. Hide that one. And I need to be able to extrude this out so that I can get a sense of the taper. So solid, yes. Both sides, yes. Make it plenty big. I'm going to do a cutting plane. Okay. And I don't really care. That's fine. I'm going to want to use it as a cutting tool eventually, so I'm going to make sure the direction points inwards. And it does. And I'm going to mirror it with history. Like so. And I'll go into my right orthographic view. And bring that in something like that. I'll rebuild it. And 7 by 7 by 3. Turn on the points. Grab these points and slide them over. That point, slide it over. Move it up. You'll notice that I drag a selection window when I select the points, because if I don't, I'll only grab the top row. I want to get all of it. I'm going to rotate these points. From here. And then move them all out just a touch. And rotate again. I think that's good enough. I don't even know if it's worth cutting that. I don't think it is. What I do think is worth doing is projecting these with history. I could really use a light color right now. I really don't need that anymore. Famous last words. Record history. Project from the front C-plane. Delete input equals no. If you delete the input, the history won't update anymore. Now, in theory at least, yeah, see how those points, those surface points, surface lines come up to meet? That's really important. Okay, I'm going to take a look at my components so far. Okay. Grab these 3 points. Actually, I want to lock that so I don't select it accidentally again. And lock that. When you're doing control point editing, you really don't want to have to keep snagging geometry you don't want. I'm just trying to unbury the maquette. Okay, that'll work for that. Now, but I have to really get these pieces to come in on the sides. Selecting symmetrically. Pull them back. Pull them back some more. See, I have to pull all the way back to here to get it to bite into that. Now, we want to remember, however, this shank is not tapered. And the one we're working with is. Oh, by the way, look what happened. Somehow, I've got to back up until that's not happening anymore. See, I can't have anything like that going on. If it's skewing off to one side like that, it'll mess everything up. So yeah, I had a little mistake. I gotta fix it. It's all right. I don't know how it happened. But that's not important. What's important is that it happened. This time, rather than working from the center, I'm going to work from the sides. See what I can do about snuggling up to that a little more. Okay, I have made a decision. It is important to cut this. So, because I want it as a visual reference. Oh, it's locked. No, it isn't. It's just not wanting to select it. Delete input. No, I don't want to lose these surfaces. These surfaces are my tools. But I do want to have that, because that's going to make it a lot easier for me to visualize what's happening. And that'll also allow me to turn off that drawing, because that cut out blank I do not want the bottom row here. don't want to mess with that taper. I just want to be able to bring in, to get closer to the side stones. I want to be aware of how much I'm changing things. Actually grab the 3 top rows. See if I can't, because I know that's where I don't want my under bezel to show. So I need to get those in tight. Both sides. See, this is exactly the kind of challenge that I'm trying to solve. In my drawing, I have this swooping, tapered shank. But in real life, not so much. And now I have to bring these points out. So that they can provide the support I need around the stone. When you try and visualize these things, it's often helpful to go flat shaded. Those facets help you to see what you're working with. Now, somewhere along the way, in all of my undoing, I lost my drawing curves. They should still be there, but they are not. The projection got undone. Okay, so this answers a couple of questions for me. The bottom of my under bezel down here, or gallery wire, is actually this prong piece. So once this tucks in, I don't really need to think about it anymore. So the bottom of this shape is much less important than the top, where it forms the under bezel for the stones. As you can see right there. Okay. So some of this extremeness I don't need. It'll actually help that bite in better. Okay. I would like to do a symmetrical selection there. Want that point. On both sides. Do I think that's important to do? It's creating, you can see what's happening with these points here. No, I'll leave it. Okay, I'm good for now. So, what I need to do now is to create a happy medium for this. So that's what I have here. I believe that'll be okay. Because the actual under bezel for this is captured by the center shank. That's what I thought. So that's actually going to work pretty well. So what I need to do now is I need to actually borrow from my original maquette this front surface. I don't really think I'm going to need those side stones. I do need this layer. My bad. Select objects. Hello. Okay. Not really clear on why that didn't select that for me, but not a problem. So I want to use this layer just so I can have something I can see. Copy equals yes. Peel that right off the front. Surface untrim all. Okay, this is an important shape because it follows the front of my stone in an attractive way. So, I would like to take these same curves. I'll take them flat and project them onto this surface. interesting. I don't see them. Try again. Okay, there we go. Now my surface is a little too short, so add a little length to it. Perfect. So I've got that. What does not matter to me is what happens behind these prongs. So if I am to draw a curve, basically following the center line of those curves, and I'll do an offset of it because I'm going to try and trim these two surfaces and blend them together. Yeah. Something like that. And I will project those onto this surface first, mirror them over. Use these curves to trim the top and bottom. And use the innermost of these two curves to trim the sides. Going to project this curve and mirror it over. Use it to trim the center out of that. Going to use a blend surface command. Put a blended thing between them. It won't be the same at the top and bottom, so I'm going to extend it a little bit top and bottom. Take these two curves once again and project them and use those to trim. Mirror them side to side. Join the segment together. Mirror it front to back. And I have the makings of that centerpiece. Delete those two three-dimensional curves. Join. And that will break history. Create an outline from these two and do a lofted surface. Put the seam someplace logical. Oh, oops. We got too many curves involved there. and then the bottom. And join those together. Now I'm getting somewhere. I'm going to clean up. The only curves I want to hang on to right now are my flat ones, because they're always useful. Nice. Okay. Bring back I want my front view again, so unlock it, Control-Shift-H, select that one, and then put this one Control-H, so we're back into the front. I want to create the window. Okay, so just going to draw it. Record history. Make some point count that I can work with nicely. Turn on my graph. Notice the points, that's because it's a low curvature, low math curve. Take it up to 7.4. Smooths it right out. You may not have to do much with this. Fine. And then fill it. And this actually should be cut off behind the prongs. So, arc, start in direction. And fill it. lost my history, that's fine. Oh, need to fill it one more point. Okay, so I don't really want to lose this. So I'm going to join these together, copy it to my clipboard, and do some undoing. Because I like having this here. These I will delete. And then paste in my corrected version. And then adjustable blend curve from the bottoms of this. And join that into a closed curve. Front C-plane to extrude. Let's do it in blue. Okay, that's starting to make more sense to me. Now, the last thing I need to do is this side shank. And to do that, I need to go back to my right drawing. Unlock, so I can unhide it. Hide this one. And I'm just going to take a line, both sides tool. Mirror it with history. That looks good. And then I'm going to do an extend by arc to point. That did a weird thing which tells me it's not, no, it is flat on the ground. Because that should extend without a problem. Extend by arc to point. There we go. Just going to follow my drawing. Until proven otherwise, it's the truth. Rebuild it. I'm using odd numbers because it's just a habit, so I can keep things symmetrical. But it seems to want an odd number. The truth is, by the time I get to that, there's really not much of a point. Let's go back to 7. It gives me something very soft and lousy looking, but that's okay, because what I'm actually going to do now is make a surface out of it. And it's more important to me that the surface be easily edited than it is that it be pretty. And in fact, at this point, those curves become useless to me. Turn on the control points. Oh, it's an extrusion, folks. And as an extrusion, you have to explode it before you can actually get its control points to come up. That's not what I had in mind for this. I want 7 by 7. It's just a nice point count to work with. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is get it to line back up with my drawing. Okay. And now I'm going to look at it as far as what does it do with this. And it actually shaves off a surprisingly big chunk of my underbezel, which is okay. Lock that thing. Just as we did with the other surface. I don't really want this to jut out much in front of that, just because it makes for weird math. That's good. Bring these out. You see, by bringing those out, I've actually somewhat abandoned my underbezel. That's not bad. Now see, as I bring these back to try and get a kind of evenly swooping surface, I lose my corners of my underbezel again. Bring that up. It's very important that I know exactly what points I'm clicking on. Okay. I'm always holding my shift key down. Whenever I control point edit, my shift key is being held down. I'm either moving straight forward and back or straight side to side. But by constraining it in one direction, I get a lot more control. And that's the scary thing about control point editing. That's why a lot of Rhino modelers never learn to do it, is that it seems like they don't have control. And it is kind of freeform, but if you give yourself certain restrictions, like always holding down the shift key. You'll end up with something you can manage. Okay, I think that's good. So, I need the front view back. So, unlock it, Control-Shift-H, and hide it, and hide this one. Because now I need to draw this portion of the shank. Now, I'm just curious to see. All right. This needs to come out of this shank. It blends into it here. Copy that to clipboard. I'm about to destroy it. Curve, extend by arc to point. And I actually don't need the bottom piece. Straight line would be more effective from here. Join. Rebuild. Now it's really important that the bottom part doesn't change, because this is where it comes into that shank. So this deviation I see here I really can't have. That's much better. Turn on my points. In places where I can lose them, I will lose them. So that I can get a little more fluid curve. And you may ask, why am I taking the time to be careful with the curves now? Because in the first maquettes I wasn't. It's because it's much more likely, each time I revisit the maquette, it becomes much more likely that that curvature and that surfacing will be borrowed from if I decide to do a finish model. So, offset. Turn on the curves, points. Okay, that's a weird looking mathematical curve. Don't need half of these. Grab the rest and rotate from here. And I've got it. Now this is going to end also at the prong, for sure. Tap the other end of it because once again we want a cookie or a piece of cake. We want layers that we can work with when we build this thing. Bring back our surface. Project curves. And there we go. Trim. Yeah. Loft. Make sure those arrows line up. Actually, we will not need this any longer. All right, primary concern, how does it interact with those stones? Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay. And all right. So I can see that what I want is working. It is happening. That gives me a much more solid feel. For what that object is. The only thing I'm going to do to it beyond this is that in my design I have a V in that shank. It's something that I have to actually really consider because I have, I don't have a lot of thickness of metal here. How much more thickness of metal do I have? He asks himself. I'm going to pull this off, make a copy of it. Not you. Wow. Okay. Never mind. I'm going to throw that away. No, I don't think I want to throw it away. I'm just going to undo back a little ways. Come on, wake up. Yeah. Gotta go back to there. Because the loft command gave me a very strange surface to work with. I'm going to loft again, but I'll do it one piece at a time. Surface edge. See, that's much more normal. Surface offset. If I have less than 1 millimeter, I have to be aware of that. And I have decidedly less than 1 millimeter here. Copy that to clipboard. back a little bit further still. Back to where I rotated. Right there. I can rotate a little bit, but I can't rotate that much, or I'm going to really cause myself problems. More like that. It's not as gracefully looking through here, but if I want more of that effect, then I need to borrow from this side. I can thicken all I want. But I can't afford to really thin out that under bezel. See, I'm always paying attention because it's not a big deal to go in and rework these things. It's a big deal to assume everything is fine when it isn't. And then I end up having to rework it later, and there's a lot more labor at stake. So, set a C-plane here. Draw a line from the corner. Mirror it over. Fill with the curve. Decide where that's going to stop, that V cut. I say it's going to stop here. Split the surface. Delete that. Split the surface edge. At the midpoint. Use this curve to split this curve. Take that curve and extend it by arc to point, front C-plane. And catch that end right there. Okay, I don't like what that's doing, so do a curve normal to surface. Explode that and delete the extension. Do a blend curve. Take a look at that from the front. And what I'm seeing here is the actual problem. And that is that there's going to be a thinness here that isn't great. And remember, this is supporting the stone too. Okay. Surface vibro sweep. This new curve, oops, you need to join these together. Because otherwise that edge would go all the way down, and I don't want it to go all the way down. Huh, I'd split that edge. Again. I'll accept it. It's a maquette. Mirror it. Join them together. Use them to trim off the back of this. And you can see that I end up with a very thin sliver of metal right here. The way to handle that in real life would be to offset the surface and sweep it all out, but I'm not going to bother with a maquette. It's too much trouble. I'll just know, as the guy modeling this thing later, that I have a problem there to deal with. Not a difficult problem, but a challenge. My real concern is to see how this V interacts with side stones. See, that's what I was afraid of. It's going to barely capture them, but it captures them strong enough. I think I'm fine. And that does it. I mean, I can put other prongs in, but I don't really need to. I can see how this works together now. It all makes sense to me. I'm good. The only thing that I'm not really thrilled with is I still don't like those prongs. I keep changing those to the same layer. As if I keep doing it, it'll end up somewhere else. These bad boys. Take a minute and clean up my drawing before I do anything else. Storage curves. There. I'm going to resurface this prong again. Won't take me long. Most inconvenient thing is going to be finding the curves for it. By the way, that should be in storage objects, not curves. They're right here. Those are the curves I use to make it. And I just made a mistake. Put them on the brown layer instead of the red, the dark red. I don't believe I'm going to get any satisfaction out of what I'm going to try and do right now, but it's going to bother me if I don't try. So, ungroup, grab this surface, planar surface, set C-plane to object, grab this surface, not the surface, curve, rotate, point, mid-snap, to the side like that. And then re-loft this, or sweep it. Rail, section, 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 section. I'm going to put the seam at the back. Okay. And I'm going to experiment this time with letting the seam go underneath, the crevice go underneath like so. So I still have some strange twisting going on. That's just because of a lack of cross sections. I can surface that much more nicely, but I think that may make more sense than this. In this case, the crease disappears down the back of the prong, and in this one, it disappears down the front. I think this looks more tortured. So, same cross sections, didn't take much effort at all to change that around. Last thing I will do with this, just so it doesn't look strange to me, is I will lop off the tops of these prongs. Grab me a cutting plane and put it somewhere below the table. Just so those prongs don't look so extreme. In case I want to keep those, group it. Storage curves. And that class is the end of that. Sorry it took so long, but it is a pretty complicated maquette. You can see now that I have proven the design much more thoroughly. I would need to resolve what's going on down in here. But that actually makes much more sense. Okay. That's it. Thanks for watching.